volunteer that I spoke to earlier this week. Is that you, Bridget? Awesome. Unmute yourself.
I am unmuted.
All right. So, just in case you guys weren't tracking, what we're going to do today is Bridget called me earlier this week and she was so willing to become a client. We decided to make her part of the training today. So, what we're going to do is we're actually going to do a sales presentation and she's going to be the client. And I'm going to go through this exactly the way I would go through with any client, at least the start version of it. So I told her she could throw me loops, she could do whatever she wants. We have not scripted anything, have we, Bridget?
Nope, not a thing.
So I know nothing about what she's trying to do. And if you're trying to throw stuff in the chat, you're going to have to wait until after we get through this because I can't do all that at once, but I will answer all stuff in chat once we get done with our presentation. And it looks like it's about time to start because I like to start about 10 after. So let's go ahead and start. So whether this was a Zoom call or a face-to-face meeting, I like to pretend this is more of a face-to-face because I can see you, you can see me. The only thing you can't see is this little paper, but I'm going to throw this up for you guys to see every once in a while, and hopefully you'll be able to see it. Maybe I'll turn my background off so you can actually see my paper, but um, let's go ahead and start. So, hello, my name is Carl Judd. I am a licensed agent in your state, and what I do is I help people with their Medicare. So, the first thing I'd like to do with you and in this presentation is kind of educate you. So, as I do that, I'd like to know what to call you. Do you want me to call you Mrs. or do you want a first name? What do you want me to call you?
Bridget's just fine.
Bridget. Okay. All right, Bridget. So my first question for you is, has anybody ever sat down with you and explained how Medicare works?
No.
No. Okay. So if I'm live, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and um, show her. I'm going to draw out, excuse me one second. I'm going to draw out the same thing I'm going to show you guys here in just a second. Where'd my Zoom go? There we go. Nope, there you go. All right. So, but for those of you who do Zoom, you can do it this way, right? You can go in, you can share your screen, you can show them the Medicare chart. So, Bridget, let me explain Medicare. Medicare can get super, super complicated. And you probably received a book, didn't you? You got a book that says Medicare and You. It's
Yeah,
about
I
that thick.
horrible. It was actually horrible. I
Okay.
didn't understand
So,
very much of it. It's very confusing.
yeah. And what I find is most people that I sit down and talk to, they say, I tried to open the book, I tried to read it. It ended up in the fireplace and it kept me warm for about 30 minutes, and that's as good as it was made for. And that's true, right? It's super complicated. But the cool thing is today is that we're going to go through that whole book in about 5 minutes, and you're actually going to be able to understand what they were trying to tell you. So let's go ahead and start. I've broken this down. You can see the sheet that I have on the page here, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that little blue box right there in the left top corner, that represents your Medicare card. Now you have one of those, right? You could actually pull it out and look at it.
Yeah, I see it right now.
Okay. So you see how it says Part A and it says hospital. Well, the first thing is that that's not quite accurate. So let me explain what Part A is. Part A is anything that's overnight. That would include hospice care or skilled nursing or anything you don't come home from. That's covered under Part A. Okay. Now, the neat thing is, if you've worked for 10 years, or what Medicare would call 40 quarters, you've already paid for Part A. Now, if you've had a much higher income, they might say, well, you know, you made too much and now you've got to pay a little bit extra. But generally, most people fall into the category where you have already paid for your Part A, and so you don't have to worry about paying a monthly premium for that. The other
Okay.
part where you see it says Part B, which it says medical, right? That medical means same day services. That's your doctor visits, your x-rays, MRIs, CT scans, labs, anything you go to and come home from in the same day is generally going to be covered in Part B. So it's pretty easy to understand so far, right? You have overnight services and you have same day services. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So Part B does have a cost. A lot of times it will vary depending on people's income, but right now it's about $170. It has fluctuated a couple times in the last year or so. I have 171. I think the actual cost is 166 right now. But let's just say it's $170 a month. Now that is for you to have what most people consider original Medicare. Okay. So that's original Medicare. Now, what does original Medicare actually not cover? Because that's important to know, right? What I've done
Yeah.
is on the bottom of this page, I've shown you where your risk is or where your gaps are. So with Part A, if you go into the hospital, and we'll use hospital as an example, um, you're responsible at the very first day for a deductible, and that deductible is about $1,500. I have the exact numbers here if you want to get right to it, but I'm going to use general numbers because it's easier. So you're responsible for about $1,500 on day one in the hospital.
Wow.
Now, the way that it's set up is that you do have the first 60 days covered under that deductible. So it kind of evens out the longer you're in the hospital, but you can tell the first day is pretty heavy, right? Now, if you're in the hospital long term, it starts to get kind of scary. Days 61 through 90,
Mm.
each day has its own copay, and it's almost $400 a day. It's
Wow.
$389. And that's each day you're in the hospital. So 61, $400, 62, $400, et cetera, et cetera. So can start to get very expensive. And then even worse, if you're in the hospital longer than 90 days, days 91 through 150, it jumps up to almost $800 a day. So you can
Wow.
tell that Part A has a lot of gap. And the worst part about Part A is after 6 months, after the 150th day, Medicare stops paying completely. You have no coverage for the rest of the year. So there's a big gap in Part A.
When I
Um,
was reading the emails, I was possibly sent it. So,
if
in
somebody
regards to
besides Bridget is
application,
muted, if you could please
not
mute
sure
yourself,
why you're doing
that would be
financial
great.
form.
Thank you. Okay. So that's Part A. We can tell Part A is not the best coverage, right? So let's move over to Part
Not
B.
looking pretty at all.
No, no. So let's move over to Part B. Part B is the things that you're going to use the most, right? That's your doctor visits and all the things that you're going to do generally with your healthcare. Now that also has a deductible, right? And again, my numbers are a little bit off. I think it's 226 for this year or coming up into 2024. These might be 2024 numbers. And then you have a co-insurance. So everything that you do is going to have 20%, right? I like to give people examples because I like to think through how that works for me, right? So how this would work for you is if you went to a doctor that charged $100 per visit, you'd pay the first two out of pocket. The third one would be that $33. Now the fourth visit would only be $20, and it'd be that going forward. And that doesn't seem too awful bad. But here's the hard part about Part B is that let's say you went to have a PET scan or a CT scan. Those are thousands of dollars. And 20% of thousands of dollars can add up to some pretty bad cost.
Right.
So I think we both agree that original Medicare by itself is not very good. And I haven't even told you the worst part is that you don't even have drug coverage yet. So original Medicare by itself has got some issues. The good thing is we've got a couple different pathways to fix this problem. Okay. The first pathway is the pathway that you see going down. Now that's going to require you getting a Medicare supplement. Now that would have a monthly premium, and that monthly premium on average is going to be about $200. And what that is meant to do, now Medicare supplements are also referred to as Medigap policies because they're meant to fill the gap, right? These costs down here, we're trying to get rid of. And so what a Medicare supplement would do is get rid of those costs. The only cost that it wouldn't get rid of is this cost right here, which is the Part B deductible. Everything else we can cover at 100%. And we can do that through a monthly premium of about $200. I'd have to look specifically at your zip code, but that's the average cost. Then we're still going to have to add drug coverage, okay? And on average, those plans are about $50 a month. And you're still going to have copays. You might have a deductible. Depends on the plan that we pick. But this is what they would call the original Medicare path, right? You buy a supplement, you buy drug coverage, you go to the doctor, you hand them 2 cards, and everything is paid for because you're paying a monthly premium for those services. So in other words, what you're doing is you're prepaying for your healthcare. So I like to call that the prepaid path. Okay. The other pathway, and this one seems to be a little bit more well accepted, I guess is a good word, is called Medicare Advantage. Now, what Medicare Advantage does is it rearranges how your Medicare is set up. So what will happen in a Medicare Advantage is a private insurance company will take your Medicare coverage and fix it so it's cheaper. So you still have original Medicare, but it's covered through a different healthcare company. So like a United Healthcare or a Humana or Aetna or whatever company. So you'll get Part A coverage, you'll get Part B coverage. So you'll get your overnights, your same days. They're going to add drug coverage to that, and you're going to get other benefits. You're going to get things that they call ancillary benefits. Those are things like dental, vision. There's a thing called over the counter and a bunch of other things. So these are kind of like packages that take your healthcare and make it more affordable for you. And they're probably a little bit more familiar to you because they're built a lot like what people have had with group insurance. Now, Bridget, have you had group insurance before?
I have. Yep.
Okay. What kind did you have? Did you have a HMO or a PPO?
I had a PPO.
A PPO. So you are pretty familiar with how that works, right? Okay. So
And really, no, it was just what they offered. So I really don't know the difference between the PPO and the
okay. Well, truth is, I was going to explain it to you anyway, but thank you for being honest.
I don't know what I have. They just gave it to me.
Okay. So here's the difference between an HMO and a PPO. Let me start with an HMO, right? So that little blue box there, an HMO is built off of a network, right? So you have doctors, you have hospitals, you have specialists, you have pharmacies. I don't know why I have surgeries in there, but you have let me fix that. You have pharmacies that are all contracted with an insurance company, right? So I told you we're taking this into a private insurance company like a Humana or United, whatever. Now, for you to see a doctor inside of an HMO, they have to have a contract with that company, right? So it's called a network based. So if we stay inside of a network, we're going to do really well. We're going to have very low cost to our healthcare. If we try to go outside of network on an HMO, we're going to have to pay the full cost for those services, right? Now, the difference between an HMO and a PPO is that a PPO is built off of a network. So you will have doctors and hospitals and specialists and pharmacies that are contracted with an insurance carrier. But if you need to go outside of network on a PPO, you can do that. The difference is you're going to pay a little bit more. So again, I like to give examples, right? So let's see. I'm going to try to draw. Now, I'd be drawing this out on a piece of paper if I had you in person, but let's say that I went to see a specialist on an HMO. I might have a $25 copay for that visit. If I went to see that same exact doctor, same exact insurance company, but I chose the PPO version instead, that cost is going to be slightly higher. It might be $40, might even be $50. So let's go ahead and use 50, even if they're in network. But if they're out of network, I can still see them. The cost is going to be a little bit higher. And just for, ease of numbers, I'm going to say it's 70, just to give you an idea of what it would look like. So that makes sense, right? You got a certain cost for HMOs. They're going to be lower because you stay in network. And then you have costs for PPOs. They're going to be slightly higher than the HMO, but you're going to have two different cost structures. You're going to have an in-network and an out-of-network. So far, does that all make sense to you?
Yeah, my only so if I went outside of the HMO, let's just say there was a specialist that I wanted to go to for some certain reason, what kind of cost am I incurring in that if I go outside of their network?
The full cost.
Full cost. Wow. Okay.
So like if that specialist usually charges $350 for his services, you're going to pay the full $350.
Are they contracted with via Medicare so that they're giving you at least a Medicare price?
That will probably be the Medicare price.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'll get Medicare rate because you do have
Right.
Medicare.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, you're going to pay the full cost.
Okay.
Okay. So to make this easy, let's summarize this. You have your original Medicare, right? And that's what you have now. You've got a lot of risk. We've got a couple of different ways we can fix this. If we went down the original path, you can see I kind of totaled out your year for you. It'd be about $3,000 in advance. The only cost that you're looking at that point is you're going to have your Part B deductible, which is that 233 or 226 or whatever it currently is now. And you would have to pay whatever the drug coverage is set up like. So if you have a deductible for brand name drugs, you'd have to pay that when you pick it up. If you have co-pays, you'd have to pick those up. And to be honest with you, the structure for that standalone Part D is going to be pretty similar to what is inside of a Medicare Advantage. So when it comes to drugs, I'm not really going to differentiate too much between. What I am going to say is that drug coverage is pretty much the same between standalone and if it's built inside of a Medicare Advantage. So any questions on what we've covered so far?
Not so far. That seems like a abbreviated version of that big thick book I got, but I think that I understand that a lot better.
Exactly. Okay, so we got two options, right? We could try to fix it through the prepaid path or the pay-as-you-go path, right? We're only gonna, in a Medicare Advantage, we're only gonna pay for the services that we have done. So Generally, there's no monthly premium, and if there is, it's very small. But really with Medicare Advantage, you're not paying for anything unless you're using it. Okay. So now let me show you. Can you see a different sheet that just popped up?
No.
Okay. Let me share this page then. Okay. Stop share.
Can you repeat that last statement? You indicated that if they don't pay for a certain portion unless they use it. What was that statement?
So on a Medicare Advantage in layman's terms is a pay-as-you-go type of path. And the reason is because they're not paying a monthly premium. And if they are, it's very, very small, 20, maybe $30 a month. I think the highest one I've ever seen is 50. And that was a ridiculous plan that nobody would ever go on. But Medicare Advantage, you don't pay a monthly premium for it. But when you go to the doctor, you might have a copay for that service. So now what we're going to do, and this will probably help answer the question that you just had. We're going to look at your personal situation, Bridget, and we're going to
Okay.
try to figure out what makes sense. But what I'm going to do before we even get started with that is I'm going to go ahead and say that we already know that a Medicare supplement totaling for the year is going to be about $3,000 plus the cost of your drugs. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because we've already prepaid for everything. So there's not going to be any cost in any of these areas. But we are going to pay $3,000 throughout the year as a prepayment.
Okay.
So we already know that number. We just got to figure out the other two and see if those make more sense. Okay. First of all, let me ask you this. Who is your primary care physician?
Dr. Johnson.
Dr. Johnson. Guys, I apologize. I've got so many things popping up on my screen. I can't find my insert button. Okay, so Dr. Johnson, is that right?
Hmm.
Okay, what do you know what road he's on by chance?
He is on Becker Road.
Is that right? Becker, Becker.
Yeah.
Okay, just in case, I want to be able to find him if we have to look him up. So
Am I supposed to be giving you actual doctors' names?
that's
You want
okay.
actual doctors' names? Because Dr. Johnson is not a real, but he's probably somewhere, but he's not really my doctor.
That's
So,
okay. That's fine.
okay.
All right. So I usually say it like this, Bridget. I can tell you what the average senior uses or how many times they see doctors and things like that and show you cost, or even better, if you'd like, we can use your specific last year as an idea of what you would have spent on an HMO or a PPO and gauge that against a Medicare supplement. So which way would you like me to do that?
Well, I see the doctor quite a bit, so I'm gonna probably go not the average. I'm probably a little bit more.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so your Dr. Johnson, let's start with him, right? How many visits did you have with Dr. Johnson last year?
I probably 8 or 9.
We're going to go on the high side. Okay. Number of visits was 9. And I'm also going to put that over there on the PPO.
This particular one, Carl, is actually through my HMO because I used to have a PPO, but now I have an HMO.
Okay. Well, we're going to look at both for cost just to see how they play out, right? Okay, so 9 visits. So mine. I hate when I play with this stuff during live calls because it always gets jacked up. No worries. We'll figure it out. Okay. So on an HMO, the nice thing about an HMO, and let me explain what an HMO is. An HMO is built to be a preventive maintenance plan, right? So most people that go into HMOs are healthy. They might have some issues, right? Like you might have high blood pressure, or you might have had some major event, but you're at a place where you're not high risk to go to the hospital or have a major event happen medically, right? So it's a preventive plan, right? Where you're going to either maintain your health or we're going to keep you from getting into a bad place. So most of those do not charge you to go to your primary care physician, right? Like in your HMO right now, do you have cost when you go to your primary?
Not for my primary, no.
Right. And so same thing with Medicare Advantage. So your total HMO for those 9 visits for the year, 0.
Right.
Now, PPO, let's see if I can do this without messing up the whole thing. Nope, can't do it. All right. So bear with me. Everything is shifting. I'm sure you guys can follow along. Those 9 visits for PPO. PPO is a plan that's not necessarily preventative, right? It gives you a lot of ability to choose your own doctors. That's why you can go in and out of network. So a lot of times you're going to find even with the primary care, you're going to have a small cost for those visits for the PPO. So you had mentioned that you had a PPO plan when you had group coverage before. You had costs for those visits for even for primary, didn't you?
Yes.
And they were small, probably $15, $20, something like that, right?
Yep. I think that's what it was.
Okay. So let's use $20 per visit. So 9 times 20, that would be $180 for the year, right? So we can see the difference right now. HMO and PPO, there's going to be some cost difference, not crazy, but some cost difference. And we already know that we've already paid for that with the Medicare supplement. So that makes it pretty easy, right? If you had a Medicare supplement, you pay that first $233, and then after that, you just show them your card, and then you don't have to pay anything else. So that makes sense so far, right?
Yes.
Now let's talk about your specialist. Do you have specialists that you go to?
Yes, I do.
Okay, let's start by figuring out who they are because I'll have to look those up, okay? So who is your first specialist and what is their specialty?
Dr. Toddler.
Toddler, Toddler?
Uh-huh.
Okay, and what is their specialty?
Endocrinology.
Endo. And who is your second specialist?
Dr. Smith. He's a heart specialist.
Yeah. What street is he on, by the way?
He is on Jones Avenue.
Let's see that. Okay. What other specialists do you see?
That's it.
Okay. So we got a couple of specialists we see per year. And again, this is why it's easier to do this drawn out. Okay. So how many times between the 2 doctors did you see your specialist last year?
I see them every 3 months, both of them. So, you
That's
got
every
8.
quarter, 4, 8 visits for the whole year?
Yep.
Okay. And that's average. So we would have been real good if we would just done the average. So that's good. So on an HMO, and we're going to use the number that we used on page 1, right? That $25. So 8 times 25, that would be $200 for the year. And we'll go ahead and use that same $50 just as, a normal number, just because it's kind of an average. but that would have put you at 400 for the year. And the Medicare supplement, guess what? We've already prepaid it, so we don't have to worry about the cost there. Now, last year, did you have any days in the hospital?
I spent a week in the hospital.
7 days.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. So on an HMO, I'm going to say average cost, and these vary a lot. So let's say it's $200 a day. We're going to call it $1,400, right? Now I'm going to put an asterisk by that because we're going to talk about that a little bit more later. And what I'm going to do for the PPO is I'm going to put 2,000, and I know it's more, but I'm going to put an asterisk by that, and I'm going to explain it to you in a little bit more why I did that. Okay. Because inside of the Medicare Advantage, there are stopgaps. So we're going to asterisk both of those for just a minute and come back to those, because those numbers probably are not going to be fully accurate, because we probably would find plans that would make those cost less than what they truly are in this form. Okay. Now, do you have any upcoming surgeries?
No, I don't.
No. Okay. So we're just going to flat that out. Okay. So just to do a basic cost comparison, just based on your last year, right? Now I'm assuming with next year, you probably do not have any plans on going into the hospital, right? So our numbers for next year going forward are probably a little bit skewed because you had a weird year last year. So you're going to make the way I do this a little bit backwards, which is perfect. I've never really done too much of this, but I have done this before, but it'll make more sense when we go into page 3, how this really evens out. But just going from what you had going on last year on an HMO, you probably would have capped out cost at about $1,600, right? Your PPO, and I got that from the $200 for the specialist, the $1,400 in the hospital. We still need to asterisk that. And then we've got the PPO cost, which is $2,425.80. So I hate weird numbers. We're just going to call it $2,600. Even with your time in the hospital, which obviously is the most expensive, it still looks like HMOs and PPOs are slightly less expensive than a Medicare supplement. So we're going to investigate that a little bit more. I want to show you some long-term effects of how HMOs and PPOs and supplements work. And I'm also going to play devil's advocate. I'm going to give you a second version of your hospital in case you have a normal year. I'm going to put you in the hospital for 1 day, right? And I'm going to say it's $200 a day versus $300 a day. And I want to show you a couple different versions of what long-term looks like, right? So if we had only the 1 day in the hospital, you would have only spent $400 for the year for the HMO, and you would have only spent 7, 8, let's just call it 900. Oops.
I do have one question. Where would
Sure.
where does the cost of like x-rays and CT scans and things like that figure into those figures?
So normally what I would say is, as I'm doing this cost comparison, right? Your CT scans and things like that. And you're not doing this to average as my normal client, right? So you've got a lot of hospital days. All that would have been done during the hospital cost, right?
Oh.
But playing devil's advocate, if you're only in the hospital for 1 day and they didn't do it then, normally, even if you didn't have a surgery upcoming, I would have put a surgery day in there, and that would have shown you an approximate of what a CT scan or something like that would have cost in an HMO or a PPO. Those costs are very, very similar. So when I do this with people, those costs are, in each category are very similar. So what I never want to do with you, Bridget, as my client, is I never want to put you into a situation where there's a shock factor, right? So had you said, hey, let's just do the average client, I've been like, great, that's fine. 5 visits to your primary, 8 visits to the specialist, a day in the hospital, even if you didn't have a day. And if you didn't have an upcoming surgery, I want to throw one in there just in case. That way, if you have a day where you've got a CT scan that wasn't expected, we've already kind of covered what that cost would look like. So it looks like you had a really crazy year last year with 7 days in the hospital. I'm actually kind of surprised you only had 8 specialist visits, right? So,
I take care of myself.
well, good. So we're going to look at it from a couple different ways, right? So as we get down into year 3, and without trying to jam up this paper too much, I'm going to use your last year as a catastrophic year, because it sounds like that was a pretty catastrophic year. I mean, I don't want to be too nosy, but I would assume it was something pretty major if it kept you in the hospital for 7 days. Is that right?
It was an accident. So it was
Okay,
just an unfortunate circumstance.
gotcha. Because what I know about hospitals is if they keep you in the hospital for more than 2 days, it's serious. Right? So otherwise they're trying to kick you out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my standard numbers for comparison for most days. And what I'm going to do for my catastrophic year is use your last year, because that's your catastrophic year. So in an HMO, what I would do is I would say, okay, my average is $400 a year. So I have a 400. Next year I have a 400. And then guess what? I've got a 1600 year. But I'm not using that number, Bridget. I'm actually going to go to the maximum of what you might possibly have spent where there's a stopgap. Okay, so in an HMO plan, they have a feature called maximum out of pocket, right? If you somehow found a way to spend that much money, your maximum out of pocket would stop you from spending after that point for your medical services. So instead of using your catastrophic year, because your catastrophic year is kind of low compared to a true maximum out of pocket, I'm going to use the true maximum out of pocket. And then I'm thinking that since you had 7 days in the hospital, since you had an accident, you probably have a couple of extra visits that you're going to have to go to specialists. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so normally what I would say, since your average year is 400, I'm not going to use 400 for the year after the catastrophe. I'm going to use 800. You're probably going to have double the specialist visits and this and that happen, probably an extra surgery, what have you, right? So I'll use 800. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then by the 5th year, I'm back to $400 again. Okay, let's see how good my math is. 4, 8, 12, 2000. That's 8,700. 8,700 for the 5 years. Now, you said yourself, you're a pretty healthy person, right? Your average would be about 400. So 400 times the next 5 years. Holy cow, what's going on here? Times the next 5 years is going to be 2,000. Oh, my goodness. Equals. So in 10-year period, even with your catastrophic year, and I know I blew it up by like 5,000 extra dollars, you're looking at, what did I say, 87 plus 2, that's 10,700. Put that in the right place. 10,700 for a total, right? Now, the PPO, if we would have done it that way, numbers are a little bit different, right? What did we say that was? $900, right? So 900, 900. Actually, I'm going to be easy. 1,000, 1,000. We're going to use the same 6,700. We're going to do 2,000 just like we did with the PPO. We want to escalate and show double the services just in case you might have those extra services. You might have had some rehab or whatever, right? So we know you're going to have some more usage. And then finally, you're going to get back to where you were, right? So let's see how good my math is. 1, 2, 3,000, 5,000. And then 67 on top of that is 11,700. You can check my math if you want to use a calculator on me, okay? And then again, if your next 5 years are pretty solid, right? We're going to use that 1,000 at 5 years. That's pretty easy. That's 5,000. So that would put you at 16,000. I hate the way this is lining up. 16,700. And we know that Medicare supplements, let's just get rid of some lines. It's going to be 30,000 because that's 3,000 times 10. Right? So money-wise, what I'm seeing in your situation is that you have probably a lot lower cost on a Medicare Advantage plan than you would with Medicare Supplement. And even with your catastrophic year that you've already gone through, it looks like that would have evened out and been less expensive. Now, I told you we were going to go back to the hospital because this is a unique situation. Not many people have 7 days in the hospital. And even you admitted it was an accident, right? So inside of Medicare Advantage plans, there are stop gaps for different areas. Hospitalization is one of them. A lot of times inside of these plans, they will have a caveat like you only pay the first 5 days, or you only pay the first 7 days or 10 days. So those numbers, we would have to look at specific plans, but $2,000 is pretty much the cap of where they stop. What I find most of the time is that Part A deductible, that 1,556, where I was saying, about 1,600, it's going to be very close to that number as a stopgap. Okay, so anything above that, you're probably not going to pay anyway, no matter if you're in the Medicare HMO or a PPO. But we would have to look at a specific plan to find out how it's set up. But I don't think you would have paid quite that much for those days in the hospital. Okay. Now, I do have a page for drug coverage, but I'm not going to show it to you because just like the book, it can get very confusing. But what I'm going to say is this: you've got 3 different levels of drug coverage, right? You have the initial stage. That's going to start with where you would have deductibles, most likely for brand names, and you're going to have copays for any types of drugs that you get. So when you go to the pharmacy and pick up whatever drugs you're taking, they're going to have a copay system already set up, built on tiers. Now, once you reach a certain amount of dollars that has come in, or that you have spent, let's say you've gone to pick up, I don't know, 40 medicines. Okay. And the retail cost of those medicines is about 5,000 or 5,300. You're going to move from that initial stage to a coverage gap. You might have heard the term donut hole before, right? That's what that is. At that point, the insurance company is not allowed to pay for any of your drugs anymore, right? Unless there's an exception. But most plans, they're not allowed to pay. But what does happen is you go into a share with the manufacturer of the drug. So you're paying about 25% of every drug, and the manufacturer's paying 75%. What you will realize, because nobody really cares about that, what you will care about is the increase in cost of your medicine. Where if you had a drug that retailed at 400, but you only had a $20 copay, now you're probably paying more like $65 for that same drug. And you're going to say, what the heck just happened? You're in the coverage gap. Okay. Now, what happens in all of the drug formula that Medicare has created is anytime that you have paid a copay or a deductible or a percentage of your cost while you're in the gap, you have put money into this little piggy bank, right? When a manufacturer of the drug pays money, they also are putting money into that piggy bank. So any money that you've paid in stage 1 or stage 2, or what the manufacturer has paid in stage 2, when that total reaches $8,000, you come out of the gap and then you get some relief. What's nice about that is, in general, your generic drugs will not cost you more than about $5, $5 or $6. And then your brand names will cost you about $10, $11 because you're getting a relief from Social Security as well. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
Clears it up just a little bit.
Awesome. So at this point, if you agree with what I see, I think that Medicare Advantage would be a good idea to look at. So what I'd like to do is look at your doctors and see what plans they participate with. And if we can find a plan that is an HMO or a PPO, which type would you prefer to go into? One that is networked or one that has a little bit more freedom? Because you're going to have a lot more savings on an HMO than you are going to be on a PPO.
I'm on a fixed budget. So I
Okay.
think I'd like to look at the HMO, even though I don't have the flexibility.
Okay. So we're going to pause right here. What I would do is I would take this information that I have, right? I've got the doctor's names. I'm going to throw them into Sunfire. I'm going to look for HMOs and PPOs. But really, the goal is, since she just told me she's on a fixed budget, I'm gonna look at HMOs first. They're going to offer the most benefit at the lowest cost for copays. And if we can't find a plan that has all her doctors, then we're going to move to the PPOs, right? But it also looks like long-term, even with your crazy situation from last year, and thank you for throwing me a loop, right? Even with that crazy situation, it looks like Medicare supplement just doesn't make sense to you, right? So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. That's how I go through my presentations. If you notice, I did not rush my client at all. I let them answer. I used a very soft tone. I hope that comes across compassionate and not like I don't care, because my goal is to make them feel like I'm listening to their specific situation. So page 1, I'm kind of explaining slowly so that they understand it. By the time I get into page 2 and page 3, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to understand my client and who they are and what's going on with them, who their doctors are. Now I can ask them who their doctors are, but I can't really ask them about their conditions. Now, the one thing that I would say, you did say you had a cardiologist, right? I would ask them if they had, well, actually what I would say is, Bridget, there are some plans that offer unique benefits for people with chronic illnesses. And I noticed that you said you had a cardiologist. If you had, and I would have to know the plans in my area before I said this to make sure that there's a plan for this. But if you had CHF, or if you had, any specific heart conditions, there may be a plan that's available that has even more benefits. Do you want me to investigate that? Is that something that you think you would qualify for? Right.
Yes.
Now, I didn't ask her if she had CHF, but I did say there are plans for people who have it. Do you think you would qualify? So I'm asking her, but I'm not asking her. Right? Hopefully that makes sense. And then at that point, you've got to go through Medicare.gov. So I know we're pushing time. I'm gonna go over today. So if you need to leave at 1, that's fine. We're recording this. But I plan on going through all the questions, and I also want to show you guys one more thing. This is Medicare.gov, right? You can see right here, that's Medicare.gov. This is the same but different than Sunfire. If you're looking for anybody with a special needs plan, you just get rid of that little pop-up there. You see where it says find health and drug plans? You hit find plans now. And if you're just joining, I'm sorry, I'm not letting you in. Okay. Right now, because we're in a weird time frame, right? We're in October. There are people who are eligible to start their plans in November. So Medicare is going to let you choose 23 or 24, but generally it's just the 1 year. We're going to look at next year, right? Zip code. Bridget, what's your zip code? Let's use yours.
76475.
76465.
76475.
76475. Eastland or Palo?
Eastland.
Eastland. Okay. Now, see what's nice? It tells me what county you're in. That helps me when I go back to Sunfire, because that's what I'm going to have to do. So what am I looking for? Part C, Part D, Medigap. I want to look at Medicare Advantage. Find plans. We didn't talk about Medicaid, but we're going to assume for this that you do not. So, oops, we're going to say, I don't get help. Next. I don't want to look at drugs because we're not doing that at this time. Plan type. Okay. Do I want to do that? I can do that if I want to, but I want to highlight this right here, special needs plans. If you told me you had CHF or something like that, I can go in here and I can look for special needs plans and I can apply that. Now, what's going to happen is the regular plans and the special needs plans are all going to be into this feature now. So as I go down, the way that I can tell something is a special needs plan is it will tell me. You see this right here? That's a special needs plan. Chronic special needs plan, right? Chronic condition, it doesn't really tell me why. So I might have to go into the plan to find out what it's for. I can do that by going into the plan details. Overview. It's a special needs plan. Okay. What am I missing here? They've changed it on me a little bit. I hate when they do that. There used to be a little button over on this side that said summary of benefits. Now they've changed it. Okay. The way to go through this. Look at this plan right here and find out through United. UHC is United Healthcare, right? Go into United's portal and find out what that specific chronic illness is. I'm assuming this one is probably diabetes, to be honest with you. But that's why I say you have to know the plans that are chronic before you really bring that up. Otherwise, you might as well just go ahead and take a pause with that client and then do some research, because the special needs plans do not show up in Sunfire. You have to go to Medicare.gov or the specific provider, like United or Humana or whoever, to find special needs plans. Okay. So special needs plans can be a little bit of a pain in the butt, but here's the thing, right? I know a lot of you probably just said, I'm not going to deal with those. Please don't think that way. Special needs plans are going to have such great benefits, and it's going to give them a care manager that works directly for them. So it's really hard to beat those types of plans in most situations if somebody is really in the chronic stages of that illness. So it's a little bit extra work when you find somebody who has a chronic illness. Just take a pause. Hey, you know what? I've got a little bit of research to do. Let me go ahead and find out what plans are available for this need, and let me get back to you and we can finish this conversation. Because I don't want to just show you the basic stuff, because I think you might qualify for something special. It'll take you about 20 or 30 minutes of doing some research on your own to find the special needs plans, investigate them, and then maybe even compare them, right? Because you can do that on Medicare.gov. You can compare 3 plans at a time and see if it makes more sense on a special needs plan versus another type of plan. Okay. All righty. Holy cow, I've got 35 questions here. First of all, does anybody have any questions on how I did pages 1 through 4? Perfect. Okay, then I did a good job. Bridget, did you feel like I asked you anything that was off the wall or threatening, or that wasn't relevant?
No, I think it was pretty simple, straightforward, comfortable.
Okay. I love that you said comfortable, because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make the client feel comfortable with what we're doing, right? I'm trying to make them feel like they are in charge. Now, when I said we had different options to go with, did I make you feel like you were the one that's going to choose that?
Yes.
Okay. But I also did kind of lead and say that it looks like Medicare Advantage might make more sense, right? But you still felt in control, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, you were listening to my questions and not making responses when, when I said, oh, I've got this specialist, it was just a matter of business. Let's find the right stuff for you and getting the right information.
Absolutely. Perfect. So, and that's what we want to do. We want the client to be heard. We want to let them feel like they're totally in control. But at the end of the day, really what we are is their agent, right? So we know where they're going to end up, because by the time we get done with page 2 and we see those numbers, we already know. We know where they're going to go, right? They're either going to go an HMO, PPO, or supplement. Now, if you'd have told me that you had 25 specialist visits and you had rehab, I would have stopped that conversation right in the middle and said, you know what, Bridget, it looks like you got a lot going on. Is this something that's going to be long-term for you? And if you said yes, I would have said, you know what, we could go through this whole presentation. I could tell you lots and lots of things, but I can already see by the numbers that a Medicare supplement is going to make more sense. So let's look at the Medicare supplements, because I want to save you money. Okay. So page 2 is your direction. It tells you which way to go. Either you're going to go Medicare supplement because they're what I call a train wreck and they've got too much going on, for a Medicare, for a preventative plan to make sense. And even a PPO is going to be super, super expensive. So why do that to the client? Put them on a Medicare supplement, right? And if that doesn't make sense, then what we'll do is we'll put them on a Medicare Advantage and go from there. Okay, I am trying my best to get to all the chat, but I've got a lot of boxes going on here. So give me just a second so I can start answering these questions. Okay, still need E&O. Okay, listen, everybody, very quickly, E&O. I am not part of WFG, right? And I know a lot of you probably came from a WFG. WFG has their own E&O that does not cover Medicare. I don't know why, but if you have E&O from somewhere else, it's good. As long as you have $1 million worth of coverage, okay? So if you have a question about E&O, there it is. You have WFG, you got to get more. If you have anything else, if you have London's or any of the other ones, you're good to go. As long as it's $1 million worth of coverage. Okay. I got a link for that. What state are you in? Do you have to call them? Tony, I don't know what you're talking about. Unless you're talking about E&O, so I'm not going to address that. If you're having audio pauses, I'm apologizing to you. Hopefully the recording that I did since Gabriel was talking should be clear. So you can always go back and watch this. Okay, Daryl, can somebody point me to this one pager? If you're referring to the pages that I pulled up, all of those pages that I pulled up are inside of the LBA resources. You just need to go in there and look at the different pages that I have posted up in there. Pages 1, 2, 3, and 4 are in there. Every state's Medicaid is in there. There's some marketing materials in there. Guys, go play inside of the LBA website resources. There's a ton of stuff in there to help you be successful. But I do recommend printing out pages 1 through 4 and practicing that. What I do is I would draw it out on a piece of paper and I would give it to the client when I'm done. You could print it out, make a couple marks on there, especially on page 2, 3, right? And hand that to the client when you're done. That's why that will make them feel very confident that you did a really good job, excuse me, going through their personal situation, and they will understand it. It will also stop a lot of questions that are really more buyer's remorse because they understand how they got to that product that you put them in. Okay, so my advice is print out pages 1 through 4, and however many people you're going to go see, have that many copies so you can give it to them. Okay. If they choose the supplements, do they still pay the $171? Okay, listen, Part B. Let me back up. Part A and B, Medicare, is where they start. They have to have that no matter what, right? They have to have that before they start talking to you, technically, or they have to have it coming into place. So everything that we do starts after they're already paying their $171. Now, there are plans, if you look in certain areas, not every area, but most areas, that have what they call a return of premium or a buyback, or it's called a lot of different things in different areas. But it will put money back into their Social Security. But yes, they do have to pay that $171 no matter what, because they have to have Part B to have a Medicare supplement or a Medicare Advantage. So good question. But yes, they will always pay their Part B one way or another. And even if they're on Medicaid, right? I know that'll be the next question. Medicaid will pay for a Part B, right? The Part B is still getting paid, but it's getting paid through Medicaid. Okay, so Part B will always get paid one way or another. Okay, Where do I catch a recording of this? This will get posted by Gabriel to our LBA YouTube channel within the next 24 to 48 hours. If you don't have that link, talk to your upline because I don't have it. It's like Legacy Benefit Alliance YT or something like that. But I don't have the link in front of me, so I don't have time to post it. But your upline should have a next steps paper that will have that link on it, along with all the other resources that I mentioned. It will be in the YouTube too this afternoon. Okay. I hate weird numbers too, Carl. Good. You're doing this worksheet. Alyssa, yes. Yes, 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 yes. Every client could do page 2. Every client. Listen, if they have been a client for yours, I'll tell you my experience. I'll jump off of that. I have people that I have worked with for 10 years. I do pages 1 and 2 with them every time I sit down with them. 10 years. And all I do is Medicare. I haven't done life stuff. Well, I do a little bit, but I don't really focus on life. I've done Medicare, right? 10 years clients. Hey, let's just do a quick review of Medicare. Now, it's not as slow as we did today. You remember AB, overnight, same day? Remember we can do supplements? Remember we could do Medicare Advantage? Yeah, I remember all that. Okay, great. Let's look at last year. Let's do page 2. Okay, now let's find some plans that make sense. Every time, okay? Especially new clients. Thumbs up there. Kim Across Medicare Boot Camp. I don't know what that document is, Kim, but if that's the client thing that has all the resources, you're a godsend for putting it up there.
It's the pages that you went over today. All of the 1, 2, 3, and 4.
God, I love you. You're wonderful. Okay. There's a lot of thank you Kim's there. Once we went to the pockets, race insurance company will pay everything else. Okay. Armando, great question. Let me explain that a little bit more in detail so you understand. Medicare is very weird when it comes to coverage. You have to almost understand that drug coverage is separate, even if it's built into a plan. Okay, so drug coverage is its own little beast. So that's why on an original Medicare, when you buy a supplement, drug coverage is standalone. Inside Medicare Advantage, it's still kind of standalone-ish. So to fully answer your question, Armando, once you reach maximum out of pocket, all the medical costs are covered at 100%. Okay, so if you have a maximum out of pocket at $3,400 or $1,200, I've seen them as low as $1,200. If the client reaches $1,200, they don't pay another medical expense. No doctor visits, no CT scan, no physical therapy, nothing. But when they go to get their drugs, they still might have copays because it's medical maximum out of pocket. Does that make sense? Hopefully that fully
I wanted
explains it.
to add into that. So forgive me for asking. So even if you had a train wreck
Mhm.
and we can get them into a C-SNP or an HMO or anything that has a lower out-of-pocket maximum, the medical part will cover them for after the medical, I mean, after the maximum out of pocket is done, but they're still going to have the same problem with the medications, regardless if they were on a supplemental with a Part D added to it. Wouldn't it just be better just to put them on a Medicare Advantage and then with the Part D, and if they hit the donut hole, I mean, there's
Right.
nothing that we can do about that.
Right. So this is why I say page 2 is your deciding factor. When you go into page 2, we're talking about medical. You notice I don't reference drugs in page 2. Matter of fact, when we were talking about page 1, when I was talking to Bridget about page 1, I said drugs are going to be pretty much the same no matter how we do this, right? As we got into page 2, We didn't even address drugs. A lot of times, if I'm drawing this out, I will draw a line and say drugs are going to be about the same no matter how we do it. So yes, Armando, to answer your question, if the numbers on page 2 medically put them on an HMO or a PPO, go ahead and do that. Because their drugs are going to be their drug costs no matter what. If they're a train wreck on the drug coverage side, if they're going to hit the donut hole, it doesn't matter if they're a standalone or if they're in a Medicare Advantage. They're going to hit it no matter what. It just is what it is. But that's an excellent question. And yes, I would follow page 2 to decide what type of plan or what pathway to put them into. Okay. How long is the average appointment with a prospect? And do you find that they follow this pretty well? I have been doing this a long time. Okay. When I do my 4-page in person, the last 3 years that I have been doing this, I have been 100% putting people on plans. Okay. Now I average about 200 to 300 people per year. So I think it's pretty effective in person. I haven't tried it on Zoom. Good luck. We'll see how it works, right? My advice, try to get in front of people. They follow along pretty well, but you notice it's an hour, right? I went kind of slow on page 1. I want them to understand that they have a lot of options. Page 2, we went kind of slow. Now, once we get through page 2 and page 3, we're looking at plans at that point, right? And it just depends on how fast it takes you to go through a plan. My average appointment, honestly, is about 30 minutes. I don't spend a lot of time with them, but I've spent enough time to make sure that they feel comfortable, that I am making sure that I'm looking at their specific situation and that they feel like they're in control, right? So I'm going to ask them, what avenue do you want to pursue? Do you want to look at Medicare supplements? Do you want to look at Medicare Advantage? Okay, great. Boom. I'm in Sunfire. I'm popping in doctors, right? This HMO looks really good. Do you want to look at it? Great. Here's the scope of appointment. Text it, send it back. Boom. I'm looking at this. Do you like it? Great. Quote and enroll. We're filling out information. Once you get through pages 1 through 4, it goes really, really fast. But you got to get them to trust you on the front side. So I go really slow on pages 1 and 2. So the average appointment depends on how quickly you feel as an agent that your rapport is built. And then you can start speeding up. Okay. Can you show us that so we see how? Cynthia, I don't know what you're asking me.
I don't think she's on the call anymore, but she was talking about whenever you were doing the drug part, and so don't worry about it.
I am here and I was talking, I forget, you were explaining somebody else's question. And in the middle of that, that's why I asked. But it's fine. Keep going.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah. So when you throw stuff in the chat, if you're a little more specific, that will help me. Do you recommend calling the carriers if you need help understanding a particular plan? Yes. Matter of fact, they have support numbers that the whole reason, especially this time of year, is to help you guys be educated on how the plans work, right? Or the special features of these plans. Now, I have been harping for months now, since before you could do your AHIP for 2024, that you guys need to be talking to your area managers for every carrier that you represent, right? They will give you those numbers if you don't have them already. I'm sure they probably already emailed them to you. But what I would do, I just thought about this yesterday. I would ask them, what makes you better than, let's say I'm talking to Humana. What makes you better than United Healthcare? Why would a client choose you over Aetna or Cigna? Have that sales manager sell you on their product, and do that with every sales manager. That will give you all the little tidbits that you don't know right now and that I'm not teaching, right? The ancillary stuff. That's the little bitty things that some of the clients really need. And you won't know until you go into the summary of benefits. So what I recommend, talk to each of those little sales manager, get a couple of books from them and say, hey, you know what? I was just curious. Why would my client want to take you over Aetna or Cigna? Does that make sense? That'll be probably a 20-minute conversation, but you will get some golden nuggets out of that. Okay, account insurance, blah, blah, blah. Do you ask them if they have a chronic illness? Okay, Tammy, do you ask them if they have a chronic illness, or do they have to originate that to you? What is the line that you can't cross? Okay, Medicare has been pretty clear that you cannot ask them. Okay, we're all licensed agents. Everybody knows what cherry picking is, right? I don't have to explain that. So CMS does not want agents to cherry pick people, right? Or realistically, we're getting down to brass tacks. They don't want doctors to cherry pick because a lot of agents work with doctors. Okay, so if you notice how I did it, I looked at their specialist first, right? I noticed that Bridget had a cardiologist. So at that point, if I hear that they have a podiatrist, a cardiologist, a neurologist, most any ologist, I'm going to say, by the way, there are certain plans for people with chronic illnesses that are available. Do you think that you might have something that would qualify you for one of those plans? I never ask them if they have a chronic illness, but I do say that there are plans available, and should I investigate that with them in some form or fashion? I promise you, if you did page 1 as slow as I did, they're going to be like, oh, man, I've got this thing in my shoulder and it's been chronic for years. And man, my teeth hurt. And I'm telling you, they're going to jump all over it. But the ones who have specific stuff like, oh, yeah, I'm diabetic. Okay, I can look at that. I can look that up for you. Well, I mean, I had a heart attack. Okay, we might need to talk a little bit more about that. But there are certain plans for like chronic heart failure and this and that. You think you might qualify for one of those? Probably. Okay. That's how you find that, right? But don't ask them specifically. Hopefully, Tammy, that answers that question for you. Okay, Tammy, I'm going to go back to your other question in just a minute about secret shoppers. Can it be too late for a supplement plan? Supplement plans are life insurance plans, in case you didn't know that. That's a golden nugget for you guys. So what does that mean? That means Medicare supplement plans can be sold all year long. You don't need special enrollment periods or anything like that because it's a life product. The problem with Medicare supplement plans is you also need drug coverage, which is not a life product. So you can do a Medicare supplement whenever you want to, but if you're going to go down that pathway, then you're going to leave them without drugs if you're not within an enrollment period. So yeah, you could sell them whenever you want to, but I try to keep them within the enrollment periods as well. Can I send an SOA to a client covers 48 hours, but meet the client any day after the 48 hours? Daniel, I'm not sure how you're trying to do that. Here's what I do with my SOAs, right? the way I'm teaching you guys how to sell, to go through pages 1 through 4 before you do anything else, right? And notice this is recording, so this is legit, legal, compliant, however you want to say it. You're going to do pages 1 through 4. At that point, you start to know what kind of product you're going to put them into, but you still don't know what company you're going to put them into. Okay. So to do a legitimate scope of appointment, you have to identify a company that you're going to represent. I don't know how you do a scope of appointment before you do pages 1 through 4. So Daniel, to answer your question, I always do immediate scope of appointments because when I meet with my client, I'm doing pages 1 through 4 before I do anything else. And then by the time that we have identified what company that I want to show them, I'm going to send them an immediate appointment upon their request because they want to see that plan that I think is best for them. And so all of my scopes are immediate, which gets rid of the 48-hour rule. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question. Videos, YouTube, voice recording, other playback. Thank you, Bridget.
So immediate, is that in person?
In person on YouTube. If you listen, you need a scope of appointment to talk about specific benefits for a company. That is the purpose of a scope of appointment, to identify a company that you are going to go over the benefits for, and the client has to give you permission to do that. I do not know how you get to that point without identifying their needs first, right? So whether you're doing a Zoom call, phone, in person, whatever, in the last 10 years, I have always done immediate scope of appointments because I don't know what company that I'm going to show them until I do a needs analysis with them, which is page 2, right? So yes, no matter the format, the venue, it's always immediate. And that applies to everything except for carrier sponsored seminars, because you're obviously, if you're doing a seminar for Humana, the scope is going to say Humana. So you can put Humana on the scope, but it's still going to be immediate because that person is a seminar and you're just meeting them at that point. So to answer your question, scopes are, in my opinion, the way that we do it, always an immediate appointment. Okay, do we get credit for sending them up for that at 65? Cynthia, I don't understand what credit you're talking about. Please show us how to pick a plan for vets. Ronnie, I'm going to do a special one for vets that I will record that will not be on Zoom, kind of like the little short videos that I've been putting on. So thank you for bringing that up, but I'm already tracking that, and I'm going to do a short video specific to how to show you how to find MA only plans. So thank you for bringing that up, but I'm already tracking that.
Thank you, Carl.
Absolutely. Are we only doing AEP or are we doing OEP and SEPs? Adam, I don't know about you, but I plan on working all year long. So yes, we're doing AEP, we're going to do OEPs. I'm going to teach you guys how to work the SEPs for all kinds of stuff. So plan on writing Medicare all year long. This is what I would tell you. I try to do 150 to 200 enrollments during open enrollment, and then I try to double that throughout the rest of the year. That's my goal, because there's actually more business outside of open enrollment than there is during open enrollment. The cool thing is most agents that are not hungry work 3 months out of the year and they say, I'm done. Which means that we have the whole cake to ourselves, right? We can go back behind them and fix their mistakes and we can do everything else. And I'm telling you, the way I teach you to do it, most agents out there, especially if they work for Humana or any of these companies, if they're a captive agent, they haven't done page 1, page 2. They just said, hey, look, see how awesome this plan is? Sign up. When you do it the way we do it, you got a client for life. Okay. Not only that, one of the things that I'm going to do later on very shortly is teach you how to get referrals, because not only are we signing people up right now, but as you sign people up, when we come January, you're going to start doing some follow-up. And during that follow-up, you're going to start getting referrals. I'm going to teach you how to do that as well. Okay. So yes, we will be writing all year long. Where are we at now? Okay. Oh, Kim, thank you for putting the YouTube channel in there. So if you guys had questions about where that YouTube is, it is in there. Look in the chat. Bunch of great videos in there. And Ronnie, that's where I'll put the vet video. How much is Eno? I'm not going to answer that. Blah, blah, blah. Napa. I used it. Stacy, make sure you call them. If they get a plan, October, November, December start date. January 1st. Stacy, come back on the line for me, please. If you're there. There you are. Okay. Stacy, you asked if they get a plan October, November, December, coverage starts January 1st, question mark. Also, when does company send their plan info? Can we expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I say I sign somebody up end of October. That plan starts January 1st, correct?
Well, that depends. If that's an agent and their birth month is October, they will start October 1st. And they will
Okay.
get plan materials both for October for the rest of the year, and then they'll get another set for January going forward. So if you get a turning 65 and their birth month is October, November, or December, they're going to get 2 sets of books. They're going to get the book for the month that they actually get started, which will be the first of the month that they turn 65, and then they'll get a rollover for January. They'll probably get it all at the same time. But yes, that's a good question. But I wanted to expound on that because right now you have the option for 2 different years to sign people up on.
Right.
And if you have a special election period, they're going to get the month that they become effective, plus they're going to get next year's material.
So say it's not because there's a special enrollment or they're just turning 65. Say they're just getting a new plan. That starts January 1st?
Yes, open enrollment. So anything that's written October 15th, which is when you can start submitting business. October 15th through December 7th, they will have a start date of January 1st, right? So commissions roll off of that. Be aware of that, right? But what's going to happen is when you write a plan, most plans are going to digest that, send it up to Medicare. It comes back down to the plan, and they will start sending cards out and books out, usually within 2 to 3 weeks of when you wrote the policy.
That's what I wanted to know. Perfect.
Right. We haven't gotten into it, and I'm going to do another little short video, probably not on Zoom, so you guys can get a quick version of it. But one of the ways that you keep your clients and grow your client base is through that follow-up, right? Let's say you wait 3.5, 4 weeks and you call, hey, Bridget, this is Carl. I just wanted to make sure that you got your books and your cards. Do you have any questions about anything that's going on? No, I got my stuff. That's great. Perfect. Listen, what's happening now is I am what's considered your agent of record, which means if you have any problems at all, you can call me first, right? I'm your representative. I work for you. That also means that if you don't like this plan, I'm the person allowed to make a change for you to a different company. Oh my gosh, what did I just do? I just said, I am your savior. If I fucked up, I can fix it. Excuse my language. Shouldn't have recorded that. But if I messed up, I can fix it. But I work for you. That is a powerful statement, right? That means I want to work with you as long as you let me. And I usually tell them, I do that. I will work for you as long as you let me. Until you fire me, I am your agent. And I will put you on whatever plan you need to be on. It doesn't matter what company. I work for all of them. So it doesn't matter. I get paid the same. It doesn't matter. So I work for you. I have no skin in the game except for making you happy. Right? So that's part of the follow-up. And then we'll go into more detail about referrals and stuff like that afterwards. But super, super important to follow up with people 3 to 4 weeks after they have been signed up for their plan.
So, and that's about when 3 to 4 weeks they'll get their information in the mail.
They'll get it in about 2 to 3 weeks, but you want to give them an extra week just to make sure that they have got it.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Does page 1 to 4 work on the phone the same? It's difficult, but it can. I'm not a big phone sales guy, right? Like, and I'm gonna be very honest with you guys. I believe that Medicare should be done in person, and you could do it on Zoom, but the more rapport that you get with your client, the higher success that you're going to have both selling and keeping your client. Okay. So I know a lot of people are coming from life, and life can be done fairly easy through the phone. Medicare is with people who are a little bit older. They want to talk, they want to tell stories, and they want to see your face, and they want to shake your hand. Okay. So on the phone, I probably would try to transfer that phone into a Zoom call. That way, at least you can show them the same way I showed you guys today, how Medicare works, how we get into different numbers and things like that. Other than that, on the phone, you are also required to have certain things that are scripted, right? And there's a Medicare script inside of our resources page. Now it is a little bit flexible, but you'll see that there are certain things that you have to say. And it has to be recorded 100% all the way through. So yes, 1 through 4 would work on the phone, but I don't think it would be as effective. Okay. Thanks for the to confirm appointments. Most people are done in person, not on Zoom. Tammy, yes, I think I just answered that question for you. That was about Sunfire. I thought, let me see a run through. Okay. I'm not going to do the Sunfire transfer because every week they do their Sunfire training on how to use their platform. So I'm going to let them take care of that. And has a wig allowance. Yeah, depending on where you live, you can get free hair. Do you think you might qualify for one of these plans that cover things like CHS? Kim, are you still on?
Yes, I am. I'm driving though, so
That's okay.
I'm limited.
It says here, do you think you might qualify for one of these plans that cover things like CHF, etc.? Something you need to expound on there, or did I already cover that? You probably were just answering a question.
I think you already covered it.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you. And I mean, if somebody wants to keep their plan, are we able to become their agent of record? I hate this question. Okay. Yes and no. It depends on the carrier. And the process is a pain in the ass. So I would never try to build my book of business off of somebody else's efforts, right? So if somebody put them on a plan, they put them on a question for a reason, right? If they have not talked to their agent in 15 years and they want to write a letter to the carrier that has all this information on it, then sometimes the carrier will allow that to happen and you'll start getting paid on it. But it doesn't always happen that way. So yes and no is the right answer. Okay. Will we still get paid if we decide to look on Medicare.gov for plans? Okay, so you can look up plans on Medicare.gov. You notice that they have an enroll button. Don't ever hit that button because that gives that sale to Medicare, not you. So always go back to either Sunfire if it's not a chronic special needs plan, or go to the carrier's website. Like if it's a special needs plan for diabetes through Humana, go to Humana's website to sign up for that. Okay. Outside of that, if you don't care about the commission, yeah, sign them up through Medicare.gov. But there's two problems with that. When you do that, you've just taught the client that they can do it themselves and they don't need you. And you also didn't get paid. So no. Don't ever sign them up through Medicare.gov. Did I read somewhere that an enrollment can only be completed from an inbound call and not an outbound call? Boy, that's a can of worms. Sherry, are you still on the call? If you're not on the call, I'm not going to address it.
I'm here.
Okay. All right. Explain to me more about that. How are you doing your outbound calls?
Well, I'm new to Medicare, and I
Okay.
thought I saw that somewhere. If you call a beneficiary and you discuss the plan, they will have to hang up and call you back in order to complete it.
How did you call that person? How did you know to call that person?
Well, this is just a scenario.
Well, right, but the scenario is all dependent on how you came across that lead.
Okay. Let's say I saw them in the grocery store and the conversation came up and I got their information.
Okay. Did they tell you that you could call them?
Yes.
You have consent to contact now, so you don't have to worry about hanging up and making that phone call.
Okay.
Now, if you bought a list of people that are turning 65
Yes.
and you call out to them, you have to be very careful. CMS rules says that you cannot talk about Medicare Advantage until they ask you about it. So guess what? We're going to try to schedule an appointment based off of Medicare supplement. However, we're still going to do pages 1 through 4, which means that it could turn into Medicare Advantage because guess what? When I'm done with page 2, I'm going to ask them which pathway they want to go through. Right?
Okay.
So
right.
You never really have to hang up on an outbound call because if you're calling because they gave you consent, they gave you consent. If you're calling a list, you're really calling a list to book an appointment.
Okay.
Okay. And if you happen to merge that into a Zoom call at some point and you follow my sales system, page 1 and 2 will get you to the place where you still don't have to hang up.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. What do I mean? Got to expand. Short videos are actually helpful. Thank you. Seminars. Yes, you can do seminars and educational events all year long. Okay, Carl, I have a client submitted the assessment. His birth date is 11/6, so Medicare expires Daniel, you have a client that's birthday is 11/6. Is he turning 65 in November or not?
No, he's already on Medigap and Part G, and it's expiring, I think, and I mean, I don't know if it's expiring, but his birthday is 11/6.
Okay. And he has moved from Michigan to Louisiana?
Los Angeles, California.
Oh, LA. Okay, gotcha. All right, so you could do it one of two ways, right? He just moved. So guess what? You have a move SEP. You can actually put him in. You could go to his house today. Today is the 11th of October. He can start November 1st because he has a move SEP for either new drug coverage if he wants to stay on a Medigap policy, or move him into a Medicare Advantage plan that would start November 1st. You don't have to wait till January 1st in this scenario because he just moved, right?
Okay. So I can put him to Medicare Advantage.
Yep,
If
starting November 1st, and then when it asks you for the SEP, you're just going to put move, and you're going to say he moved 10/1.
Okay, but he has a chronic diabetic stuff. So do I need to go to Medicare Gov to check information there? Because it looks
Yeah,
like
go to Medicare.gov, find the companies that offer it, and then honestly, right now, because you guys are pretty new, call into their support and say, look, I'm looking for the diabetic plan for Humana. Can you give me the number and point me to what the benefits are? That would probably help you the most.
so. How
right?
do I connect that to Spark Sunfire when I enter the information?
You will not be enrolling special needs chronic. You can do the duals, the Medicaid, Medicare, you can do those through Spark, but the chronic plans you have to do through the carrier. So what you're going to need to do is go through Medicare.gov, find the companies, like I showed you today, how you do the chronic illnesses, find the companies that offer, try to find the one that best fits so you can compare 3 of them at a time, right? There's probably only going to be 3 or 4 anyway. Find the one that looks the best, call that company, and they'll walk you through the portal on how to enroll that person.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
All
But
right.
you'll have to go through the carrier portal to do that.
Carrier port. Okay, either Humana or WellCare. Okay.
Correct.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, there is an excellent question. Tammy, are your trainings every Wednesday at noon? We are going to change our time. So I think what we're probably going to do is Tuesdays, probably at like 5 or 6 p.m., something like that, because we're starting to interfere with the training that you guys need from Spark for the platform. So we're actually going to shift our trainings. This will be the last 12 o'clock call we have for a while. But we will post that out in MailChimp for the next one, and we'll give you guys a few days advance notice so you're able to plan. But I would tell you this, don't miss a sale to find my training because we record them. Right? So if you have appointments, go on those. You can always watch me later. Okay. T65 must have A and B first before they can roll. Okay, they have to have Part A and eligible for Part B, which means that they're enrolling in Part B before you can enroll them in Medicare Advantage. Yes, that is correct, Ronnie. Bridget, good. Glad you have an appointment. Star rating mean the same thing as hard time. Okay, star rating. Shit, that should be its own training, but star ratings are important for a couple reasons, right? Star ratings don't just mean that the plan is doing a good job. Star ratings mean how much funding that company is getting for each of their clients as well. So if you find somebody that is on a 2.5 star plan I would probably move them just because that plan is struggling, right? And there's a good chance that at some point they're going to go away. 5-star plans, you can write all year long because they've been doing everything right. And guess what? Medicare is throwing a bunch of money at them, right? But star rating is not always my determining factor. As a matter of fact, it's probably the last thing that I look at. But we do want to explain the star rating to the client in a way that they understand that the way that they get judged, which is a combination of things, how well they pay their bills, how good their customer service is, how quickly they do referrals. All of that is reflective in the star rating. Okay. So if it's a poor star rating, they're probably not going to want to join that plan anyway, right? Unless they have some ridiculously good benefits. Also explain that a star rating is 3 years in the rear. So technically what's happening currently with the company that is being rated is not reflective of the star rating. It's what happened 3 years ago with this company. So I don't put a lot of meat into the star rating unless it's really low. 2.5 or below, please stay away from those companies. But 3 and above are probably legit companies. And the reason that is sometimes people are just going to give companies nasty reviews, or their customer service sucked for that year or whatever. So I don't shy away from star ratings, but I explain it in a way that it's an overall rating of how they get judged. And there's like, I think it's 47 different criteria that CMS uses to be able to give them that star rating. And part of that is customer service and how well they pay their bills and get you to your other doctors, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, if you call 1065, what is it typically you say? If I call T65, I say, when can we meet? When can I sit down with you? I have an appointment, but thanks. Okay. Except for how you book an appointment without mentioning Medicare. Okay, you can talk about Medicare supplements. Remember, the difference between Medicare Advantage and Medicare supplements is Medicare supplements are life products. They don't have the same rules as Medicare Advantage. So all the stuff that you went through for AHIP, all the carrier certifications that talked about special enrollments and you can't do this and that and blah, 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 does not apply to Medicare supplements. So you have a T65? I'd like to meet with you. Talk about Medicare supplements, Medigap policies. You've got a lot of risk when it comes to Medicare Part A and Part B. Then do pages 1 through 4 and find out if they still want to continue on that path or if they want to switch to Medicare Advantage. Okay, that's how you deal with not mentioning Medicare Advantage on the front side of that phone call, is you do pages 1 through 4. How do we know for sure that they qualify for a SNP? Well, if they have Medicaid, which you can check in Sunfire, they qualify for DSNPs. If you ask them if they think they would qualify for a special needs plan, like for example, some of the plans available are plans for diabetes, some for heart conditions like CHF, and would your doctor sign off on that because he's going to have to? That usually answers that question, if you know that they qualify for a special needs plan. Now, here's the thing. Let's say that you sign them on a special needs plan. In the big scheme of things, they have 21 days to get a doctor to sign off on it. If that doesn't happen, they have already been put on that plan. And now they're going to be placed off of that plan, which gives them a special enrollment period for you to put them on something else. Kind of a no-lose situation. when it comes to you helping that client. But if the client is not as straightforward with you, and they say, yeah, I definitely have, you know, this, but the doctor says no, that's okay. You still tried to put them on the plan, but when the plan doesn't go completely through, in other words, when they get kicked off of the plan because they weren't fully transparent with you, you can still put them on another plan because you'll be granted an SEP for them coming off a plan. They'll be losing coverage, which is its own special enrollment period. Okay, star ratings, they'll be out any day now. I have a local carrier that is number 2 in my area by far. It's not a list of available appointments. Adam, what company are you talking about? You're on mute, by the way.
Corewell Health. It's a major one in the state of Michigan. It's throughout the whole state.
Do me a favor, submit a ticket to support@legacybenefitalliance.com with the name of that company and say, is it possible to contract with this company?
Okay.
And Gabriel and I will talk about that one.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Constant, if someone can't find their A and B card, do you look up on Medicare.gov? I don't think Spark has that availability, Connie, but you can do it a couple different ways. You can go to Medicare.gov. That's its own website. It's on Medicare's website. And they can throw all their information in and it should pull up their Medicare number. Now from their Medicare number, all you need is their Medicare number. You can go back to Spark and get their effective dates, right? And what plan they're on. Or you can spend the time on the phone. You can just call 1-800-Medicare. Believe it or not, that's the number. And talk to somebody, but the client will have to be the one on the phone to get the number. Okay. And at that point, I would ask them to send the client a new card. One more thing that I want to address when it comes to Medicare cards. You're going to come across people that have Medicare cards that have a social security number with a letter behind it, right? Those are old. Those don't work. About 4 or 5 years ago, Medicare changed from social security numbers to some kind of crazy mixture of numbers. So if you come across a Medicare card that looks like a social security number with a letter behind it, or a bunch of numbers with a letter behind it, that is not a new card. That card is not going to work for enrollment. You're going to have them call Medicare or go on to the Medicare.gov site and get their actual Medicare number. Now, the effective dates will be fine, but the number itself is not going to work. So hopefully that helps you guys out as well. Thanks, you're welcome. Stacy, yes, you can unmute if you want.
My question goes back to the SOA. I live in an area where there's it's very rural in some places, and some of my seniors do not have internet access. They don't have cell phone, they don't have computers. So this whole situation with the SOA is concerning me. So can you just explain like the immediate SOA, because I always do my appointments in person and I always do a needs analysis, before. So as long as I do that, continue to do that, am I able to do the SOA right there? Like, can I have one and they fill it out? Or the 48 hours is what's really confusing to me, that they say that you have to have the SOA 48 hours before you go to the appointment.
Gotcha. I'm going to say it like this. I'm not going to tell you how to sell. My job is to teach you effective ways to do it. Okay. The way that you're doing it is not fully in line with the way that I'm teaching, right? Really, what you should do is just book the appointment with them and go see them. Do pages 1 through 4, which at that point you have no idea what company you're going to represent. So even if you're doing your collecting data and all that stuff, you still don't know what company you're going to represent. Now, let's say you're doing it your way. I would still do pages 1 through 4. And then as you get to the point where they're going to tell you which way they want to go, I would still do an SOA, right? Because you can do an SOA through text message through Sunfire. So as long as you have at least cell phone service, you can do an immediate scope of appointment. That's just my personal opinion. But if you have gone through your,
They don't have,
I understand what you're saying. I'm saying if
they
you,
don't
if
have
you don't
cell
have
phone
anything,
or computer.
right, you don't have to do an electric scope of appointment either. You can do a
Okay.
hand scope of appointment. So here's the thing, folks. Look, get a hold of your area managers for the different companies, right?
Okay, no
Even if
problem.
you have just an Aetna book, even if you just have an Aetna book, I'm just going to use Aetna because Aetna sometimes is great and sometimes it's garbage. But sometimes you just have an Aetna scope of appointment, and that's okay. You take that Aetna scope of appointment and you take it with you, a piece of paper. And when it goes down to what plans did you represent, if it comes down to Humana was the best, you write Humana on that Aetna scope and you send that to Humana with your application, right? So there's lots of ways to do it. But worst case scenario is get a bunch of generic scope of appointments, or just get scope of appointments from wherever, and bring them with you on the appointment. Does that make sense? Hopefully that helps, Stacy.
Yes, yes, okay, no problem. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, perfect. Okay. I think I missed something here. I run scope to check the. Can I run the quote and enroll in Spark to check what the cost client options are and cost just to view? That sounds like a weird question, but Daniel, let me explain what you can do with the quote and enroll. So you can look at all the plans. You can put them side by side. Now, if you're looking at Medicare supplements, you could do the same thing. But Medicare supplements and Medicare Advantage are in 2 different areas inside of Sunfire. So I'm not really sure what you're asking there, but yes, you can stack up 3 of whatever category side by side to show what their copay structure would look like and other benefits.
Yeah, I enter my client entered their information, and I just want to see how if I can compare, different
Oh, yeah,
carriers.
yeah, yeah.
I-
Matter of fact, I would tell you go play with it. Just don't
Yeah.
hit enroll.
Yeah.
Go through the whole process. Just don't hit the enroll button if you don't have an enrollment.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm new to Spark, so I want to make sure that I don't submit anything. Yeah.
Gotcha. No, yeah, go in there and play with it as much as you want. As long as you don't hit the enroll button, you can look at everything that it does. And if you get frustrated and don't like that, go to Medicare.gov. You can do the same thing.
Can client go to Spark too and check their stuff, or do they have that option?
I don't know. I think there's an option for that, but I don't know. I'm new to Spark as well, so I don't know. I know Sunfire, some of their options, but the truth of the matter is I'm a in-person with book kind of agent. So my my car during open enrollment, I have a Kia Telluride. And if you've seen the trunk space in that, you would understand how many books that I can hold. it's full. That's the agent that I am, but I do all my stuff in person. I don't know how to answer that. That's a Spark question. I'm sorry that I can't answer that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ronnie, United Health Group in New Jersey is not in Spark. Are you sure?
Yeah, I looked at it. It's not listed.
Not listed in Spark. Can you please throw one of those emails in the support at legacybenefitalliance.com and let Gabriel and I address this, please? Yeah, you need that.
Thank you.
We'll get that for you. Okay, Adam, since we're not allowed to cross-sell during OAP, what is the acceptable way to set up rollovers? Oh, Adam, what a great question. I don't know if you're still on board here, but how do we cross-sell? Okay, remember I told you they're going to get their books 2 to 3 weeks, right? And you're going to call them in 3 to 4 weeks to make sure that they got their books and blah, blah, blah. And that's the time you start talking about other products, right? You just don't talk about the cross-selling stuff during your Medicare appointment. But if you're talking about long-term care or whatever else you want to do, hey, I'm glad you got your cards. I'm glad there was no issues there. By the way, that's where that conversation starts. Okay. Don't want to miss out. Also, do we get paid as earned or advanced commissions? That depends on the carrier, but generally for open enrollment, you get paid first year upfront in January. Carl, I sent you a message about doing something. You're on the right track. Okay, Katrina, did I tell you to come on the call for that? Was that you? You're still on the call. Yes, you are. I see you right there. Okay,
Oh,
so that was
right
about
here.
yeah, that was about the Medicaid, right?
Right. It was the Medicaid that she had, but she's going to be 22 in December. And so I sent you a text message. I met with the mom today. We did coffee and did the chat like you told me. And so she should be able to qualify for the Medicare because she's been on the disability more than 2 years after she turned 18. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, somebody needs to start talking to Social Security for sure. And
Okay,
find out
that's what I told
why
her.
she doesn't have Social Security, why she doesn't have Medicare now. They're probably going to send her some doctors and this and that, but yeah, she should be well on her way into getting into Medicare. The reason I wanted you to be on the call about this though is because of the Medicaid. So Medicaid, you can do a couple different ways. If you live in Florida, you probably need to text me because I've got a special training that I can give you where you can do lots of fun stuff. If you're not in Florida, however, though, you can very easily try to qualify people for Medicaid by going through CHIP, right? Healthcare.gov, right? So you're not going to sign them up for a plan, but you can see if they qualify for Medicaid. And once you get to that portion, you can stop the application process. So you don't have to put them in a plan or anything else. But once you go through the application process to find out if they put through Medicaid, that goes directly to the Department of Medicaid for that state. So you can help them apply for their Medicaid that way if there is no other resource. A lot of states allow you to become like I'm a master coordinator, so to speak, for Medicaid. Like one of the trainings, I'm going to show the Florida agents how to do this, but I've got a list of people that I can continue to help stay on Medicaid, right? Not every state is built that way. And I think you're in Georgia, so I wouldn't even know what to tell you. But worst case is go through healthcare.gov, get them linked in, go through the process to see if they qualify for a subsidy. And if their income is low enough, they will qualify for Medicaid. And that you don't have to go any further because that has already been done. That will help them.
Okay, yeah, that's it. She's got Medicaid. It's that she's got Medicaid. It's that she hasn't got her Medicare card.
Right. Social Security. They got to go through Social Security and find out why. Yeah.
Okay,
There's
that's what I
not, there's
told her.
not really, yeah, there's not a lot you can do with that.
Okay, that's what I told her. She's got to start with Social Security and find out why, because she's going to be 22 now. So, okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, at an educational event, can you put other marketing info on the table? At an educational event, you can put out your business card. You can put out consent to contact cards or call me back cards and candy and food. But don't put anything out that's specific to a company. No Humana, no United, no Aetna, no Cigna. Don't do it. Don't do it. No. Can you ask for a picture of their cards? I do that all the time, but you didn't hear me say that, even though this is recorded. Darn it, that went too fast. What about a Geisinger? Stacy, put that, just like I was telling Ronnie, add that to the emails that we get, please, that we need to look at that carrier for the Geisinger. What's your voice text this morning? Okay. I have not been able to get to any of my phone calls or anything. So Constance, are you still on the
Yes,
call?
you said that you wanted to bring that up, this particular scenario that I got yesterday about the
Okay.
gentleman. You said you wanted to talk about it in training.
Okay. Now we've just done a whole 2 hours of training. Give me a real quick what it was so I can jump in.
Okay. The gentleman needs a plan to help him stay with the doctors. He moved here like 3 months ago. He went in for immediate heart surgery,
Okay.
and one of the social workers got him a plan, and it doesn't do what it's supposed to do for the doctors that they go to. And they need to change it this year to move forward and also have it for 2024.
Sure. Okay. So we already have a move SCP that we can use. I know a social worker tried to use it, but you're still going to move. Just use it.
Just use move to
I-
sign him up again.
I thought there was also a special needs something in that text. That's why I wanted you to bring it up. So what?
Yeah, the special needs is the heart cardio.
Okay, so have you
Neurology, I'm sorry, neurology and cardio.
have you looked at the different special needs plans that are available?
I have not yet.
Okay, so what you need to do, and this is why I wanted you to bring it. I think I already addressed it, so you probably already tracking.
Yeah.
Go to Medicare.gov.
Yeah.
Go into the special needs, find the one that's going to work, and then go into that carrier's website. And then you're going to have to do, so for example, like Humana, right? You're going to make sure his doctors are in there. There's a doctor finder and all that stuff. You're going to do the same thing that we would do in Sunfire, but inside of the platform for that specific carrier.
Right. Okay.
So I know we did cover it a couple times through here, but if it wasn't covered, that's why I wanted you to bring it up during this call.
Okay. Okay.
How to be able to do that. Okay.
Right.
But
Okay.
if he's a special need, here's the thing. You have two SCPs working for you. You have move and you have chronic illness. Chronic illness is all year long, doesn't matter.
Okay.
So the social worker probably used the move already.
Right.
So don't worry about that one. Just use the chronic special needs plan for your SCP.
And I can change his plan from whatever it is now to another carrier.
Yep.
At the same time. Okay. Just want to make sure.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Chip, good to know. Training is helpful. Sunfire. Thank God. Daryl. Put Medicare. And not to identify substance like expert what Best way. I was told during a training not to introduce myself as a Medicare expert. What's the best way to identify myself when I want to tell people what I do? Okay, Robert, are you on? Robert Montgomery, are you still on the call?
Yes, I am.
Okay. First of all, who told you not to say you're a Medicare expert?
It was during the LBA training here in Phoenix. This was about a week or so ago.
Okay.
But he said it's not the best. It's best not to put like medical expert like when you're on LinkedIn or whatever.
Okay. Yeah. Let me address that. Medicare doesn't want you to give the clients that idea that you work for them for Medicare or that you're an expert in Medicare. Okay. So what you are is a licensed professional. You can be insurance expert. But using the word Medicare and expert together is kind of a no-no, right? So just find a different way to identify yourself as a seasoned professional, and one of your specialties is Medicare, Medicare supplements, Medicare Advantage, what have you. Okay, but don't use Medicare and expert together. That's bad juju.
So something like I'm a licensed professional specializing in helping people with Medicare, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds perfect. Love it.
All right, thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, it looks like I got through all the questions. I did, yay. Okay, hey guys, we only went an hour and 20 minutes past time. We did great, but I think this was a great conversation today. Not only did you get to see the process, hopefully you guys took from this training, we go slow with the client to build rapport on page 1. We can start to speed up in page 2 and 3 and 4 and get them to the point where they understand why we were putting them where we put them. Okay. There's going to be some special situations that you're going to run across. My phone, I think, let's see, I'm going to tell you. 8 missed calls during the training. These are all Medicare calls. Okay. You guys, not clients. There's going to be special circumstances that you may not know what to do. Text me. I will do my best to get back a hold of you. If you are one of the people who have done that, you can see that I try to respond quickly. Sometimes you even catch me on the phone, but if you text me, I will get back to you as soon as I can. But don't let any of this scare you. What I will say is, if you get caught up in a situation, even if you have to drive to their client's house and they're remote, it's never a bad thing to take a pause and say to the client, look, you've got a circumstance that I really just need to look a little bit further into, and I need to take a pause. Can we get back together in a little while? Okay. Outside of that, I think if you are able to take what I gave you today with pages 1 through 4, dig that information into Sunfire, it should be pretty easy for you to go ahead and get as many of these sales as possible. So again, thank you guys for being on the training. If you have any questions, let us know. But here we are 4 days away from what I like to call the Thunder Mill. So get your name out there, get into that marketing stuff that I have made for you guys. You guys can put your business card on there and make 1,000 copies and throw it everywhere. But it would be most helpful at doctor's offices, inside of urgent care clinics, inside of pharmacies, and then work with your area managers for the carriers, Humanas, Uniteds, Aetnas, Asignas, all those guys, because they will get you into seminars. They will give you booklets. They'll give you marketing money. they will give you more things than we have given you to help you succeed. So my goal is to see every one of you set a goal of 100 in the next 3 months. And I want each of you to come back after that and say, I blew that number out of the water. Okay. So with that, I'm going to say, have a great one, everybody, and look for the next training to be a different time. So please pay attention to the next emails that I send out for the next trainings. Thank you, everybody. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Thank you. Bye-bye.